The annual joint conference organized by the African Union and Economic Commission for Africa provides an opportunity for African ministers and key policymakers to have an in-depth discussion and reach a consensus on the policy measures and strategies needed to achieve industrialization in Africa. This year's meeting is particularly focused on inclusive and sustainable industrialization in the context of the ongoing transformation on the continent. In his opening remarks, the African Union Commissioner for Economic Affairs, His Excellency Anthony Maroping, urged the main actors present at this meeting to seize the opportunity of the continent's economic growth and lay the foundations for inclusive industrialization.
To redouble our efforts, really invest in education and training, good health, that's what we call human development. Others still call it human capital, but I always feel that it's reducing a human being to a productive, a tool. That is, you are becoming a productive tool and forgetting that we are talking about human beings. Human development is a better term. It's more holistic. It covers everything. The betterment of a human being. After all, that's the ultimate goal of a development effort, to make the lives of our people better, holistically. So it is a challenge, quite frankly, and we have to invest in science and technology, research and development, and send our young people abroad to see how other developing countries, what technology they are using, and see how they can be both transfer or what we call diffusion of technology, and let them develop them in a way that we will be having appropriate technology for the continent here and move forward.
The theme for this year's conference, Industrialization for Inclusive and Transformative Development in Africa, is based on the economic outlook on the continent to ensure diversity in the current economic growth within the continent. On the ECA part, the Deputy Executive Secretary, His Excellency Abdullah Hamdok, emphasized on the progress made on the continent and the momentum and enthusiasms across the continent to industrialize. Representing the Nigerian government, Dr. Abraham Nwanko, Director General of Debt Management Office at the Nigerian Federal Ministry of Finance, welcomed the delegates to Abuja, adding that for Africa to move forward on its industrialization process, the theme for this year's conference tally well with the considerations of social mobility and increasing globalized world. In Nigeria, the government is pushing for inclusive economic development, taking into account the best models for competitiveness of the African economies. Chairing the opening meeting of experts, Anatole Tohube, outgoing chair of Bureau of Committee of Experts, technical advisor at the Ministry of Planning and Development, Côte d'Ivoire, highlighted on the progress made since the last meeting in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. An overview of the recent economic development in Africa by ECA states Africa's growth remained robust despite slowing down in 2012 from 5.7% to 4% in 2013. Despite talk of economic growth on the continent, yet the population of poorer people are also growing. Can these meetings on industrialization of Africa's economies be the solution to its many vices?
What happened to Africa after 50 years of developmental effort? We have made some progress, but we are still very far of what we are supposed to do. Because all the recent studies show that although Africa has made a lot of progress, especially in terms of economic growth, these have not been translated into the reduction of poverty in Africa. We still have the largest portion of poor people in the world. The number 40% of the African population is undernourished. How can you, and if this, we can have 40% of our population undernourished, rampant poverty, in the midst of abundant resources that can be exploited, then this is a testimony of a serious structural economic problem that need to be addressed. The industrial sector will expand. And not only the industrial sector, even the trade sector and the service sector.
In an exclusive interview with LKTV, the Commissioner for Economic Affairs at the African Union says the continent needs to scale up its effort.
Now, if we say, no, you will get the finished product, then in essence, we could be causing unemployment there, because then the people who are doing all these things won't be doing them unless they move here to the continent. So you do, of course they can't stand up and say we are opposed to that and so on, but deep in your heart you know that it don't be easy. That's why it's so difficult. We have been talking about transfer of technology for so long, and it has not been happening. Obviously for that reason, that, well, you want to do things, you find your way. When they transfer old, tired, no longer acceptable from environmental point of view technology instead of the latest technology. So we have to develop our own technology. And by the way, this is not out of reach. Science, technology and innovation in Africa. ECOSOC last year in July had that as one of its topics. And there were people who were giving testimonies there, the things that have been developed here on the continent. You know about the use of cell phones for financial transactions, those things developed here in Africa. There are people who have iPads now that their functions are customized for needs in Africa. But in other areas as well, you can go to agriculture, you can go to various, you find that there is appropriate technology that is being developed. So people are frightened. They think it's beyond Africa, but it isn't. But also it calls for us to train young people, good education, good training, to prepare them for these challenges. And young people are brilliant, they have ideas, they are bolder than we are, and we have to respect that and give them an opportunity to develop, and in that area of science, technology, and innovation. And we should equip them with entrepreneurial skills and access to finance so that they can undertake some of the challenges that are before us.
The economic growth varied in sub-regions, an indication that Africa growth is spread across the continent. But most of this growth is still in the formal sector, and this meeting therefore is to look at inclusive ways such as health interventions. Despite the emergence of the continent economies, the proportion of malnourished children has also increased.
Well, one of the things that economists have learned in recent years is that one of the things that really matters for economic growth, including industrialization, is the nutritional well-being of young children. Because if in the first 1,000 days of life a child doesn't get enough nutrients, then that child is, for the rest of his or her life, probably going to be shorter, have lower cognitive abilities, lower wages, lower productivity, will be more ill, and likely to die earlier. All of those things matter for the economic well-being of the country. And the crucial economic importance of nutrition at a young age has only recently been realized. So I'm here to talk about that, and also to talk with ministers about partnering on new programs to improve nutrition.
This meeting was also an opportunity for some civil society organizations to make their voices heard. This protest, staged by Action Aid, called on African government to put tighter rules on tax avoidance by multinational companies operating in Africa.
But we can put pressures on our government to say our government should stop giving away these taxes, stop giving away our money, and use that money to develop us, give us more roads, schools, and hospitals. So we're saying specifically, it's not about the company so much, it's about the government. The government is thinking by giving out tax incentives, they're going to welcome these people into them. And what's happening instead is a race to the bottom. All these companies are reducing their tax, all these governments governments are reducing their taxes, and as a result of that, there's a race to the bottom, and so they're not having enough revenue to provide services for the people. We want to stop that. We are saying part of the industrialization process that you're talking about must begin with taxes. We must start talking about taxes and stop giving away our tax money.